So, I watched the movie Barbie last night. Very reluctantly because I've never planned on watching it and I've never had the desire to watch it. I've heard a lot of reviews, mostly against it, and I already had certain expectations about the movie as well as not surprised about some of the things that they're going to portray in the movie based on the fact that it's Hollywood and the messages that already are being spread to women and young girls throughout society. It's not surprising to me at all, some of the things that were expressed in the movie. But I will say it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. I feel like there was some positive things about it, and so I wanted to share it with you today. I know I'm behind, but isn't that normal for me to be behind? I do not keep up at all with anything Hollywood, movies, celebrities. There is like not even an ounce of interest in my life for that stuff. So I don't even know what's in the theater. I don't even know the last time I went to the theater. I think it was last year to watch I Heard the Bells, the story about Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And besides that, I mean, it's just not a thing in my life. I'm not a movie buff. Is that what it's called? A movie buff? Anyway, so my mom persuaded me to watch the movie with her. She watched it with very critical eyes the first time, but the second time she went away with a different view. And so I thought, okay, I'll watch it with you. So we watched it last night, and so it's fresh in my mind. The opening scene, I think, is the one that most people talk about, and I agree, it's horrible. There's little girls dressed really sweet and wholesome and modest, and they're playing house. You see little girls ironing and their little play kitchens. You see little girls holding their baby dolls and giving them bottles and playing mother, playing family, playing house. I loved playing house as a little girl. I loved my baby dolls. I loved it. And then Barbie shows up, and she's a huge doll standing in the middle of, I guess they're like at the ocean shore, and you just see her legs, and then you look up and Barbie's standing there, and the little girls are all looking at her in awe and gradually start to bash their babies, like break their babies and break the tea set and break the heads of the babies are cracking and stuff. It's a very disturbing scene, and you can't help but conclude that the message is being beautiful is better than being a mother. So that's the opening scene. Ugly, weird, disturbing, not biblical, needless to say. And then the movie starts, and I'm sure you know the plot. There's Barbie Land, there's the real world. They show all the cutesy, like Barbie doll life things where she like drinks out of an empty cup, she takes a shower, but there's no water, things like that. Just fun, cute stuff. I don't really care either way about that. It was entertaining, cute, whatever. Her feet are always on tippy toes, fine. The next day, like they show you her perfect day. And in that perfect day, at the end of the night, there's like a party, and she kind of, dismisses Ken at the end of the evening. He's like, "Can I stay with you?" And she says, "No, it's girls' night." And she says, "It's girls' night every night." So she runs back to the house, and all the girls are screaming, and he's walking away sad. So it gives you a little glimpse into Ken's world, that all he wants is to be loved by Barbie. And she is clearly lost in her fame, really, because in Barbie Land, Barbie is everything and Ken is secondary. And during that party, she mentions death, which gives you the first indicator that something's going to be wrong with Barbie here in the near future. So then the next day, her day goes weird. Like her feet go flat and her toast burns and whatever. Just things are off. They're not perfect. So she finds out that she has to go to the real world to heal the girl who plays with her, who is supposedly like their emotions are intertwining, and so that's what's throwing Barbie's perfect life off. And when she goes to the real world, Ken sneaks away in the car with her, and she lets him go with her. So they, of course, it's funny at first because they're dressed like so over the top. People are laughing at them. They're in California. But little by little, she starts to recognize the world around her. And I think that this is where the value comes in to the movie. She sees that life is not perfect and there's people of all different shapes and sizes, and there's beauty in all the people, whether they're old or young. Or she even tells a very old lady sitting on the bench, "You're so beautiful." And she has tears in her eyes because she's seeing beauty in reality. And so I think it was a touching moment. Um, but then there's also other things shown right off the bat. You see the men are looking at her, um, and she feels self-conscious. She feels like an object. She feels like she wants to cover up. So the message there is, in the real world, women are objectified. In biblical thinking, they're not. Um, there isn't a perfect solution except being heavenly minded, being spiritually minded, not being fleshly minded and worldly minded. It really is the only solution. And to do that perfectly and well is impossible, but there are ways to approach life given to us by God, the mentality to have to life given to us by God, and we need to grow in that, mature in that, and live in that if we want to see any improvement to society really as a whole, but at least in our homes and in our circles. But those are the messages immediately communicated, is that she's an object. Now all the men are looking at her and only looking at her as an object. And then Ken feels admired. So that's another little hidden message, that he's just amazing because he has a six-pack or whatever, you know. He feels admired. And so the hidden message there is, men are looked at with respect and women are looked at as just objects. And I feel like, depending on what circles you're in, depending on what culture you live in, depending on what the society you surround yourself with, that could be 100% true in your mind. And then depending on the society you surround yourself with and the culture you live in and the people you're around, that could be not true in your mind. You can see it out there, but it's not happening in here. You know, it's very much perspective based on how you're living your life and who you're around. But there is the real world as a whole that I also acknowledge. And then, of course, all the lies of social media and Hollywood, which are not reality, but shoved down our throats constantly. And so then you think that's the real world. And then you go out into the real world and you're like, wait a minute, it's not. Unless you don't take the time to open your eyes and see that it's not. Very many people, especially the youth, think that everything they're seeing on screens is reality. But it's not. So they're being, told how to think and how to feel about men and women and race, and the list goes on. So anyway, they're in the real world, and I do think that she starts to learn good things when she's in the real world. So it's kind of her journey out of wanting to be perfect. And even when she's given the option, do you want to go into the real world and see reality, or do you want to continue living this perfect, blissful life in total ignorance? She chooses the total ignorance. And she didn't really have a choice. She had to go fix the problem. But the lady was like, I was just trying to give you a choice so you would feel like you made a good choice. But you actually don't have a choice. You have to go fix this. And she really, really wanted to just live the perfect blissful life of ignorance. And I just think that's so funny because, there are people like that. There are people like that that would rather just stay in the dark. I don't want to know the truth. Just let me stay in my perfect, peaceful life where I don't have to think. Whereas I am the opposite. I rather know truth than live in bliss and ignorance, even if it means turmoil. So she was forced to choose the truth and turmoil. But it was interesting that she chose not to at first. So then she's thrust into reality and all these things. And then Ken starts to notice that men rule the world, which, I'm sorry, it's extreme. Everything was extreme. So in his mind, the world was a patriarchy, and men rule the world. And the good things is that he did feel better than he felt in Barbie Land, where he felt like just brushed aside and unimportant. So people spoke to him, and just someone asking him, hey, do you have the time, sir? He felt like a valued human, which obviously is important. So, they're making fun of, how silly that he feels so important just because someone asked him the time. But I mean, when you stop and think about it, the guy's been like not important his whole life. So any sort of attention is going to feel good to him. And I think it's sad, you know. And you can either take this like Hollywood is just trying to make you think this is how men and women are, or you can take it as, when you played Barbie, was Ken important? No, he was an accessory, guys. Who had multiple Kens? Who went to the store for a Ken doll? If you were getting a Ken doll, it was because you needed one for your Barbie, not because you wanted just a Ken doll. I had several Barbies and like one Ken. You know, it's not the toy you go for. You get it as an accessory. So that's kind of how I took it, as funny, because yeah, that's how you play Barbie. Barbie is important. Barbie has all the beautiful clothes. Barbie has the cool house, the car, the horse, whatever. And Ken is her boyfriend, you know, and that is how you play Barbie. You want to change her clothes. You want to do her hair. You want to make her look beautiful and have fun with the other Barbies. And then, oh yeah, we need a Ken. So you could take it that way, or you could take it the deeper meaning that is more offensive and not as funny. And there is, you know, like we do that anyway with movies. We humanize things. We relate to them. Even Lion King makes you cry because you're humanizing the lions to be a real, like a human dad and a human son, when clearly they're lions, but they make them, it makes it feel like how you would feel, even though it's a lion. You can relate to it because they humanize it. So the same thing with the Barbie stuff. Obviously, if there was really a guy that felt the way Ken feels, my heart would break for him. So the world's a mess, and this movie is not going to fix it, and it's not going to speak to the profound place that both men and women need to be restored and improved. So the message they're giving is, poor Ken. Barbie is, you know, he's just an accessory. But then when he comes to the real world, he sees that actually in the real world, women, everything's the opposite. Women are in the shadow, and women are an accessory, and men rule the world. And so he takes that back with him to Barbie Land and makes it Kendom, and, you know, brainwashes all the women to wear sexy dresses and serve the men beer, like if that's the real world. That is not the real world. And when you see that in the real world, the women are doing it willingly because they have no self-respect, and the men are enjoying the fact that these women have no self-respect. So sure, if you want to be an object, I'll take it, because they have no self-respect. So nobody has any self-respect or self-worth or value in scenarios like that. But that is not what you see across the board in every man or in every woman. Yet this is what he took to Kendom. The Barbies are brainwashed. They're all in sexy dresses and outfits serving the men, and the men are, yeah, you know, laying around getting served by the women. And it's just like, come on. That is not reality. That is Hollywood garbage. And so that's the that's the hidden message is, this is how the real world is. This is what men really want. And then Barbie comes back and saves the day. So when she comes back with another character who's like this hurting human. That is the reason all this stuff was happening in Barbie world to begin with, the imperfections. And she has a daughter. So her and her daughter have a wounded relationship, and that matters to the human mother in the movie. So that's valuable. There's also value in the human saying the world's messed up, but there's still beautiful things about life. So this human mom gives a speech to all of the hypnotized Barbies, and they snap out of their trance and remember, I was President Barbie, I was Dr. Barbie, I was Veterinarian Barbie, whatever the Barbie they were. And they remember that they were of value, not just these brainless Stepford wives kind of serving the Kens, and they fight back with their seductiveness, which again, more evil, but we'll get there in a second. So the speech the mom gives is, to me, fueled with foolish thinking and unbiblical wisdom. It's worldly wisdom, just so stupid. And people can buy into it really easy because it's crafty, and you might feel the things that she says, but she's basically saying women never feel they're good enough. If you I don't know, if you work hard, you're this. If you don't work hard, you're this. If you're a career woman, you're looked down on because you're not a stay-at-home. I'm making them up because I can't remember, but you're looked down on for this reason. But if you stay at home, you're looked down on for this reason. If you do this, then this. If you do this, then this. If whatever. She gives the comparisons, and that is so easy to buy into because it feeds the emotions. It feeds the little lying voice in your mind, so you feel validated for your over emotional emotions, when in fact it's just a big bucket of lies and stupid. And men could do the same thing, which is the part that of course they don't show you, because then you would have to consider the other side. So their bias and the power of persuasive words and perspective to win you over to, yeah, women never feel like they're good enough. If a woman wants this, then she's looked down on because she doesn't want this, or if she does this, she's looked down on because she doesn't do this, or she shares her emotions, she's a complainer. She doesn't share her emotions, she's this. Like, that's a lie. Men could do the same thing. If a man works too hard, he's a workaholic. If a man doesn't work enough, he's a lazy bum. If a man comes home to relax and have a beer before he helps his wife, he's selfish. If a man comes home and immediately starts helping his wife, he's not doing it right. If a man does this, you can do the same thing for men. So don't buy into that stupidity. The fact is, men and women both have different roles. We're both made different, and we need to work together to be selfless, to love each other, to forgive each other, to communicate, to not be bitter, to not be resentful, to live our lives for the Lord, led by the Spirit, not led by the flesh, and to have self-control and selflessness and service and kindness, and the list goes on. Be a Christian in your house, and you won't get wrapped up in these stupid speeches that actually are just worldly wisdom and emotions, all emotions. So yeah, when she was giving the speech, I teared up. I teared up because I can resonate on an emotional level with some of the things she said. I don't remember what they were, but I can resonate with them. It would be a lie for me to say, I don't relate to anything she just said. No, sure, I can relate to what she said. But then my next thought is, what are you doing? No, this is worldly wisdom, emotionally led thinking, and it is inaccurate and it's not biblical. And a man can do the same exact thing on the other side. And how terrible would it be if they were making movies or whatever, giving speeches about men feeling the same way, and then men jump on that bandwagon and start living the wrong way too. You know, society is a hot mess and it's not getting any better right now. And so I don't know, I just wanted to point that out, to not buy into that garbage, because it isn't true. So that happened, and then the women snap out of it, and then they make this evil scheme. They're all sitting down with their Kens, and they're singing songs to them with the guitar, and they have this evil plan to take Kendom back by making the Kens jealous of each other and making them war. So all the women, they all have a moment where they're like, now. And the plan is to get up and go to each other, all the other Kens, and leaving the Kens that they were with jealous of the other one, because they're all just swapping out men. And that makes the Ken angry, the Ken's jealous, angry, and go to war. And while the men are stupidly at war because the women outsmarted them with their seductiveness and fake devotion, only to turn on them to make them crazy and fight each other, they go back and take over Barbie Land. So that's evil and wicked and manipulative, and it's justified because Ken's did it. They took over, so now we want to take it back, and so we're going to use our powers in an evil way against them. So there's nothing better about either side. It's both wicked, it's both evil, it's both wrong. So they get Barbie Land back, and then Barbie goes through this, you know, she's been through so much. She's learned a lot, has a totally different perspective on life. She doesn't even want perfection anymore or to be Barbie anymore. And she chooses humanity at the end. And this is the part that got me super confused, because in the beginning, they're bashing the babies, choosing beauty and independence over motherhood and family, really. But at the end, when she's given the opportunity to be a human, they say, we can't let you in to this without fully understanding what you're about to say yes to. And so the lady holds her hands, she says, close your eyes, and she says, now feel. And when she starts to feel, they show you several clips of mothers with their babies, mothers with their toddlers jumping and playing and hugging and kissing, and their grown children hugging them, kissing them. I was crying. It was so heartfelt to see just motherhood on the screen and the beauty and the love that it is to be a mother. So to me, Barbie chose to be a human because she chose to want to know what it feels like to be a mother over being a perfect Barbie land. So I was like, what? I'm so confused. In the beginning, they were bashing babies and motherhood. They were disgusted at the pregnant Barbie several times. And now here she is choosing humanity because the love of motherhood is so powerful, it would make you choose it over all that. Okay, confused. And so, but at the same time, beautiful. But at the same time, where's the father? Where's the family? You can't be a mother without a father and a family. And that's the ideal way. So there's all these missing things. And then, or the thing that everyone was like bashing, she's all excited at the end. You think she's going to go get a job, but she's actually going to the gynecologist. So she goes into the gynecologist's office and she just says, I'm here to see my gynecologist. And that's the end of the movie. But basically, the message behind that is, I think I'm a woman, right? So I don't see, it's hard to see the hidden agenda there because to me, all I hear is, I'm a woman, I want to be a mother, and you can only be a mother or a woman if you have a vagina, and you can only go to the gynecologist if you have a vagina. That's how I took it. So it was very, like, is this feeding the agenda right now? Or is it countering it? It was super confusing, the end. It seemed to glorify motherhood and womanhood and make it to where females are women and females are mothers. So confusing and interesting and a hot mess because I don't think it gives a good picture of womanhood, but there weren't only negative things. So those are my thoughts. Maybe I missed something. I only saw it once. I would love to hear your thoughts. I hope if you haven't seen Barbie that you give it a chance. God bless you guys and see you next time.